Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Great to see everyone. I want to welcome, I see some possible new folks. Oh, Jen's here from Italy. Wow, I'm so excited. Laurel just got back from Italy. So, all right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started in a minute. Please feel free to type in the chat your name, where you're coming in from, and maybe making a note if you're new. So when we break into breakouts, we make sure we put you with some folks that have already been here before. And so welcome and thanks for joining us. I see Macy's here, back from Egypt and the Gaza March. Thank you, Macy, for all the things you do locally and globally, just modeling the whole thing as you go. So thank you, everyone. I know it is a really hard time. And we come together to be in the peace community together. And today's going to be a little different. Oh, and there's Mickey. I met your friend in China. So today we're going to spend time because we have an extra special guest, and I'm super, super excited to shut up and let you all hear from Laurel, because from the minute I met her, I was just like, it was sisterhood, I just want to say. So we're going to move along. If you're new here, we're not going to take a lot of time to check in on what's happening locally. We're going to have our guest, and then we'll break out into the breakouts. So you'll have some time together to share, and we'll have more time in our next meeting. And as always, if everyone could just put your feet on the ground, feel yourself in your chair, whatever you're sitting on, and just take a deep breath with me. Really take it in, nourish yourself, feel it going through your body, nourishing your cells, and then letting it go. And take in one more breath, stilling all the anxiety that runs through us, and being present with yourself, with this community, with this moment, with all the possibilities that exist in this very moment here. So as always, we start with a piece of culture, because culture is where change starts from. And today it's a poem by Francis Fisher. What they fear most is that we will remember, because our forgetting is what keeps the machine alive. And it almost worked. It starved our souls and then fed us comfort traps to fill the void. We drank the sedation offered and traded conscience for convenience. And slowly the machine colonized our minds until our own thoughts served it. It fed us stories of borders and enemies until we forgot that the land has no lines. It sewed shame into the color of our skin and had its headlines draw borders around our hearts. Through fear, why? Because peace is not profitable, and greed needs an enemy to justify its hunger. The system does not rule us from outside, it rules from within. Through the voices we've internalized and the stories implanted in our minds, generation after generation, until we forgot who we were, who we are. Our mind is its only engine, and so its greatest weapon is making us forget. Colonialism is not just the theft of land, it is the hijacking of memory, the rewriting of history, and the severance from our roots, so that our attention can be redirected towards debt, distraction, and division. Because if we never question the dream, we become part of the machine that keeps it running, sleeping in a loop and calling it life. But when we unlearn, when we refuse to be consumed, when we choose to remember who we are beneath the conditioning, we become lucid. We recognize our own soul behind every set of eyes, and no one who remembers their own soul can stay silent in the sight of suffering, because if one suffers, all suffer. And that empathy makes us the enemy of the war economy. You become a threat to empires built on fear and division. We become the antidote, the disruption, and the memory that no machine can erase. A soul that remembers cannot be ruled. So I thought that very beautifully melds the work of both the peace economy and Laurel ZBT. I want to introduce you to the amazing Laurel Mellin, my friend, who I discovered by falling in love with her amazing daughter, who's saving the planet. And, therefore I saw that she didn't fall far from this tree of amazing women, yet I hear dad's pretty awesome too. So a peace economy amongst them as they all give their lives to others and the planet. Laurel is a health psychologist and the founder of Emotional Brain Training. The brain-based practice strengthens resilience and liberates us to think expansively, creating more peace, love, and joy. Yes, I said. Her organization, ebt.org, equips people with community support to develop a personal practice in resilience and optimal health and activism. In the same way, we have tools to serve the war economy, to take us off the anxiety driven by the war economy. Laurel has given us emotional tools to serve our self-responsibility and the balance we need in this time where everything around us puts us in some form of trauma. So Laurel, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just honored to have you with us. And, during our lunch together, we saw the connection in our work. And to just bring the community to where we are, if you could just start by sharing, how did you come to this work? Who are you and how did you get here?
Well, I lived at 60 Corte Cayuga in Green Bay, California as a young girl. And what happened for me is I had problems. I had problems with food. I had problems with anxiety. I had problems with depression. And I felt very alone. I also felt very strange. I had an odd body. And what happened for me is I got into health and I eventually got into children and adolescents and families in health and was fortunate enough to have a position at a university where I could study the science behind what was going on that made people so unhappy and what made me so unhappy. And I really didn't know what I was doing. I just started with cognitive behavioral methods and I knew something was missing. I knew it was missing from healing me, and I knew it was healing, not healing the family. So I went, what you do if you're in a university is you go to the seventh floor down in the medical library, and I start looking through everything until I found a study from 1940 that looked at families. And they said it's really the emotional connection in the family that predicts whether there will be resilience or not. And as I was 28, I'm now 76. And at that point, I said, well, that's no problem. I'll just teach emotional tools. And so I developed emotional tools. And lo and behold, since at a university, you always do research. And we found that children started self-soothing. Children wanted to go out and play and be happy, and their various coping mechanisms stopped. And a mother caught me right outside my office one day, and she said, "What did you do to my daughter? She's been using these connection tools, and she's just so happy. She's not stealing money out of my purse anymore. She's not cutting herself. She's not doing these different things." And I had no idea how to answer that question, but I knew that I wouldn't feel like I could live with myself. And I have followed along since then to move it to adults, to spiritual connection, to activism, to mental health problems and diseases, to find a very simple way in the brain to take us to our spiritual and emotional core and have us heal ourselves in community, not be so dependent upon medications and procedures and therapists and other people, but just to trust our body and use emotions to get back to that sweet spot of connection. And so it's sustained me. All these years have gone by, and all I can say is every morning I get up and I'm a little scared because I know I'm going to mess up. And I also know that there's a big opportunity for me to be of service and to connect with other people who are like-minded and to grow a movement to give people the emotional tools to really transform their lives spiritually, emotionally, behaviorally, in all domains, and really rise above. And that's what we need right now, particularly.
Thank you. Yes, we all agree with you there. So maybe you could take us on a journey. What is emotional brain training? Like if you broke it down, I mean, you have those amazing flashcards, but maybe break it.
Well, what is emotional brain training? Well, let's just talk with the brain to begin with the brain, because we all know that in schools now, kids learn how to work with their thinking brain, right? I mean, it's what is conscious. You're going to plan, you're going to decide, you're going to analyze, and you're going to text, and you're going to do all these different things. And so that's supposed to be education. And it turns out that that fact and many other like that were completely disproven by 2010. Now, this is 15 years later. And since all the things that we knew in 2010, based on neurophysiology and neuroplasticity of the stress response in the brain, were disproven. And what happens is they're replaced by different understandings that so far in both psychotherapy and medicine have not been integrated. Okay, so what I'm going to be telling you about is, and the funny part of this is the new understanding of how you work with your brain is exactly what your mother told you never to do. So we're not here criticizing mothers, but the truth is what is common knowledge is false. And so my commitment is for freedom, that people need to know how to control their brain. And it's not the thinking brain, because the thinking brain in times of stress, and right now between, the planet, what's happening with the planet, who can feel secure? I'm getting goose pimples just saying that. And what we know is we're not conserving biodiversity. People don't know what's going to happen next. We have the military industrial complex, which you folks are just experts in, and also the medical industrial complex, which is, big psych, big food, big pharma, big media, all of those coming together. And they have an incredibly detrimental effect on the brain. And what they do to the brain, all this stress pouring in, essentially takes the thinking brain, which works really well when we're happy and healthy and in a state of balance. When we go over that edge to stress, which almost everyone is in chronically, and particularly trauma, which everyone has now. That wasn't the case in 1980. It got worse and worse and worse. What happens is the emotional brain is in charge, which is the limbic system and the reptilian brain. It's the unconscious mind. This brain is far more powerful than the thinking brain. And when it's activated, which in the average American is chronically, and then there's reactive times where you just have to get something and you're just overwhelmed, or you have these circuits in the brain are just overwhelming us. What happens is the chemicals from the circuits, and I'll tell you about those in a moment, in the brain, take the thinking brain, which otherwise is pretty good, it makes it not function well. So and if you think about it, for those of you watching, when you are in stress, what happens to your thinking process? I mean, do you ruminate? Do you make lists? Do you run it through your brain over and over again? Do you get scattered? Do you get toxic? What really happens? What happens is diverse. And Jody, what you said was so important, talking about the more you get stressed, where the bottom part of your brain, the reptilian brain, is in charge, that's automatic, the more extreme and defended you become. So those of you here who are thinking about when you try to talk to somebody about the facts, about what's going on in the military industrial complex, and you give them the facts and they look at you, and this is a very intelligent person, but they look at you and they are just locked into their point of view. That's because the circuits in their stress brain nail it down when they get defended, and they actually get more locked into their position instead of changing their position. And then we understand what's going on anyway. Anyway, the more stress there is, the more the emotional brain is the ruler. And we think we are thinking people with feelings, but we're actually emotional creatures that happen to have a few feelings tucked in. And then we do something that we say, oh, why did I do that? I don't know why I did that. And then we explain it with our thinking brain. But what rules us, what made us do it, is in our emotional brain. There's circuits, and nobody who goes through our regular education system or goes into most clinics or hospitals or therapy offices learn how to control the circuits in their emotional brain. If we can do that, we can change just about every aspect of life and be more effective with our activism.
Yay. So how uh, how would you look at the emotional brain? So how can we relate to our emotional brain or have a relationship with it? When you say we're reactive, so, and I mean, I kind of used your work a little bit, like a few days ago, I had a panic attack, and I was able to have the panic attack and be able to use your tools.
Good, good.
But how it helps for me, it helped even to know I had ladders. I would say the first thing that helped was like, okay, there's ladders in there, and I'm just going to start naming the ladders so I can, instead of thinking I'm in control, I like let something else be a ladder I could hold on to. But if you want to talk about the ladder.
Okay, the ladder. Well, there is a ladder in the brain, and what it is there's a different stress levels. When you're at the in low stress, the top part of your brain is in charge, the neocortex. All your happy memories, all your positive thoughts, all your joys and love and compassion are just right there and hot and real, and that's your reality. Because we are, whatever circuit in our brain is being activated is our reality. If you cut down to here, you know how you feel and what you need. You feel pretty good and you're balanced. This is the only place that we're sensible. Once we cross this line and we go to more stress, the brain says, okay, I'm just going to put you on automatic. And we call that number 3. That's the limbic brain. And then it goes even further down. And then you're not only a little stressed, you're definitely stressed and stuck and feel terrible. And then all those negative memories feel real to you. And then at the very 5, that's when you are in stress overload. But I want to make it simpler than that. Can I make it a little simpler than that, Jody?
Yeah.
I just want you to think that when you're in low stress, when you're balanced, when you feel good, you are running wires in your brain that activate healing chemicals, positive thoughts, rational emotions, everything that, and healthy habits. It happens naturally. It is effortless because it's embedded in the circuit. And so you can wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, what am I doing with my day? Because our circuits really control us. They're encoded in childhood and then later during stress, and the stress circuits get activated without our permission. They're encoded through no fault of our own, and everyone has some circuits in their brain that are either balance circuits that send us up here where we feel good, and everyone on the planet has some that are stress circuits and take us reactively down into a different territory. Okay, so what we want to do is appreciate that the science is saying that our natural state is joy. So joy is not just happiness, but it's that state. Like last night, I was with my daughter. She had something happen with her medically, and I went in there, and it was not a happy time, but it was a joyful time. What science is telling us is it's not okay just to be calm. It's not optimal to have your best physiology, the best chemistry going, and physiology controls both mental health and physical health. You need to aspire to stay present to your gritty emotions, which, there were things going on in the room and decisions to be made. But if you can stay present to your emotions, grounded in your body, clarity about your higher purpose, all the chemicals are beautiful, and you experience intimacy and love and spirituality, and that's how you live. But we call that joy. So medically, we're looking for getting to a state of reward from higher purpose and natural pleasures. And that's up here. Okay, once we go past that and we're down here, you wake up in the morning, you say, what am I doing with my day? I'm going to be of purpose today. I'm going to use my connection to the deepest part of myself, and I'm going to run through my day of all the things that are going on and try to stay connected and back to that joy state where I can feel that glow in my body, those optimal chemicals. And the moment I don't feel that way, I am not going to look outside myself to feel better. Now, with the way the military industrial complex is, as well as the health industry, they have taught us, they have conditioned us to reach outside of ourselves. The moment we move from being connected to our spiritual and emotional core, in this part of our brain being in charge, we unplug because we're so stressed, and we plug into whatever they've conditioned us to do. And this brain has no walls. So what happens, I remember when I was raising my kids, people said, watch out who your kids play with, because they'll end up doing what they do. Well, watch out what world you're in, because it is going to infiltrate your brain. Even if your thinking brain says it's not going to, it's going to pour in there. So when all this information is pouring in and creating memories or circuits or pathways in the emotional brain, when that happens and we feel bad inside, we just feel bad and we want to feel better. And our tendency, because we've been told, reach for a drug, reach for hate, reach for aggression, reach for whatever. Instead, you say, this is not me. This is just one of those circuits that found their way into my brain. And if I don't feel good, I don't like that experience, I am going to reach for this method of rewiring the circuit, and I'm going to disassemble that circuit, deactivate it so I feel better in the moment. It takes 2 or 3 minutes. And if I really don't like that circuit, let's say I have a drive to, you eat, drink, spend, you get depressed, whatever that drive is, that's programmed in my brain, that message like I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough or whatever that the world has done to me, all I have to know is that I don't feel good. I'm missing my joy. And then I can make a decision to put that on the shelf and say, I'll rewire that some other time, because you can't rewire everything all the time. And sometimes it feels good to feel bad. You just feel like feeling bad, or you say, I'm going to use this tool in a very focused way, and I'm going to essentially erase the old circuit that's stress overload, that's not homeostasis. It's something called allostasis, which means it gets stuck on, it's toxic, it's awful. And I create a new reality for myself. I actually construct a reality for myself that's authentic, that represents who I am. So I don't have to be my parents' child. I can be my own child. I don't have to replay those things from all those past experiences. And all I have to do is keep it really simple. If I don't feel good, it's not me, it's a circuit. I can rewire it. And when I do, all of a sudden I start to lighten up. I have more energy for purpose, whatever that is for us.
So Laurel, it's so cool because I want to reflect for the community on how this is the peace economy work, because not using your language, but what we do is that the war economy forces on us addictions that are kind of, our response to the stress where it uses us. And our thing is pivot to peace, to a peace practice. Those peace practices give us what you're talking about. It gives us authenticity. It gives us intimacy. I mean, I listen to you and what I hear joy is love. I hear that as you're describing joy, I hear that is love. And so those pivots, and we've got Jen Vaughn here, who, is from the matriarchal economy, that it all starts with mother. And you are talking about that place where we're held and cared for and no love, no joy, no peace, no whatever it is. And it's like you've articulated it with another science, what we're all kind of pointing to. But when you're saying that moment where we call it a pivot, to practicing peace. And as you were talking, we didn't run into this when we were talking at lunch, but this is the work of Code Pink, because we show up in pink, which is already disarming, and in costume, and with we say that we're disarming because we don't want to be just giving facts and talking to that limbic brain. We want to be creating joy, and in the way that we are, we pivot the person we're talking to because we're so not normal. I mean, you know, like we're so, like, what are these women doing that are in joy or dancing or whatever we're doing to shift them more like in culture, like in a performative way. And like a lot of what Code Pink is we take our message in front of power, and the picture is what shows on television. That freeze frame of us is what tells the story that words won't tell. Always our photo is there before the words have the courage to speak, because a newspaper will show the picture because it's not them doing it, but the picture saying it. So we get ahead of the game that way. And you've really described this work. And I just wanted to have everybody stop and recognize the interconnectivity of what Laurel is saying and what the peace economy work is. I had no idea Laurel's work, but as soon as she started talking about it, I was like, oh my God, that's it. You've given it language and science. So, you know, that space of stopping, Laurel, that you talk about, the space where you take control. I think that, I mean, that's what I say in the peace economy. It's like, okay, all of that is horrible. Like, but what do you want to do here? And like you give everyone permission to stay in the mess, to stay in the mud puddle, or you could pivot to this. And do you, like, what have you learned in that moment of pivot that you could share about how have people related that moment to you? Or that's the hard part, you know, because it really means you're transforming. It really means you're taking charge and transforming, which ultimately is what an activist is trying to do to the world that is being violent. And so it's core to each one of us transforming to a future of transformation. But like, what's difficult in that moment?
Well, what's difficult, first of all, I just want to go back and say that when we had lunch together, it was life-changing for me because I do, you know, obviously I'm a little obsessed or I wouldn't have been spending all these years on trying to figure out how the emotional brain works. And so I'm really trying. And I listen to you and you're talking about the emotional brain because what the emotional brain wants is community. It wants some guide to go to a higher place of deeper meaning and purpose, and then to share that with others and to be outrageous in our joy. And essentially, instead of shut down, to be fully alive. And you were doing all this external work that I had never experienced before. And so I was absolutely in rapture. But what EBT adds to enabling people within the local peace economy, which is beautiful because everyone has a framework and they have a community, which is so important, is it's very lonely inside when you're in stress. And I'd like to just refer to that with a lot of reverence because my own belief, the emotional brain is the seat of the soul. It's the center of connection. It's all that really matters in our life because from that connection inside of us, we can connect lovingly and with integrity in the world. Without that lost connection, we can't do it. But the stress response is very brutal. And I say that with getting goose pimples again on my arms because the world is very unsafe, as you well know, and our neurobiology is very unsafe. Because what happens when we're in stress is we have this beautiful thinking brain, which the job of the prefrontal cortex or thinking brain is to oversee, essentially that's the good parent with the kids in the emotional brain that are every single memory you've ever had, either the ones that are really balanced and true, and the ones that have somehow found their way into your brain are completely ridiculous, you know, tearing you apart, telling you you're a bad person, telling you to do really ridiculous things that harm you or others. They're all mixed up there in the brain together. When you get an activation through no fault of your own, because it just can come out of the blue, what happens is you go into what's called stress overload or allostasis. These circuits have a big emotional boom like this. I mean, they are fight or flight, and you are filled with chemicals, and your thinking brain comes unglued from your emotional brain, and you are careening out of control. And these very nasty circuits are different than the healthy ones, the balanced ones. They have no shutoff valves. So once you get into that state, one circuit activates another and another and another. You could feel bad for a week, and you could be out of control for a week. So the first is to understand, to have people be emotionally brain literate. People don't know how their emotional brain works, and that's your primary relationship. And the first thing that happens when people say, all of a sudden, I just can't remember anything, I can't do anything, I just know that all is lost, the roof is caving in, it's always going to be this bad, there's never any hope for me, and everyone else can be happy and healthy, and I'm going to be miserable, and that's it, how it is. And that's what the stress response does to us. So what we do is have community. Everything's in groups so that people share that. So if you're in a stressed state, somebody else is not, and they say, yeah, I felt that way too, so we decrease the shame. But ultimately, we're looking for people to not only be able to connect with each other, but we are born alone and we die alone. And we have that unique relationship with our spiritual core that is our primary relationship, that emotional and spiritual core. So we need to be able to use these tools alone too. I wake up in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock, I need to be able to connect with myself again. And so we really look at how long it takes you from the time you get really triggered to realize we just say to yourself, no shame, no blame, it's just me, it's one of those wires, and reach for the method, unravel the emotional circuits, because they're all toxic. They're anxious, depressed, numb, false high. They're very toxic like this. You fan them out in 2 or 3 minutes. Your brain opens up really like a flower, and you read from your body what that faulty message is, and then you correct it. So essentially, when you are stressed, it's first really scary. And secondly, one of the most beautiful things that can happen to you, because it's only during moments of stress, and this is also very important within indigenous populations. We work a lot with Native Americans, and in that realm, we're looking at the medicine wheel, and we're looking at the idea that in those moments that are rockiest in our lives, that's where we find out who we are. That's a long-term belief, and it's actually based on neuroscience, because in those moments, if we just connect lovingly with ourselves, use this method to unravel those toxic emotions so that we can really hear ourselves. The message that's faulty, that was implanted in childhood or through trauma or whatever, the exact words, without a therapist, this is self-therapy. You don't need a therapist, you listen to your body. And that message comes up, and you don't need anyone to validate it, you validate it. When it rings true, when those words like, I get my security from hating myself, these vile things come up. And that's implanted, and you will know that those words are accurate, because when the words in your conscious mind match the emotional circuit words from the bottom of your brain, you feel wonderful. You feel in love with life, and you say, oh, I just discovered why I've been doing that. And so right on the spot, you have that discovery, and then you can begin to rewire it. So it ends up, as you work with EBT over time, as this method over time, what happens is you get really comfortable with being in stress, because that's exactly when you're going to have the greatest power to know yourself, love yourself, and change a circuit if you want to.
Well, so you keep referring to yourself, so I'm going to bring that up. So I'm hearing you, it's a muscle that you're strengthening. So when you start, it's a little messy, you're not so sure, maybe you don't trust the words, maybe you can't find the thing that brings you joy, you're searching. So I'm hearing it's a little messy in the beginning, but that's why you want to be in community for that mirroring support. But you've been doing this for a long time, and you're still coming into your limbic brain. So you're still arriving at stress, and you have your way out. So heal,
Well,
it's like, it's all there, right?
So in the neuroscience, I'm just going back to the neuroscience. There are two terms that are important for you to know. One is your brain state, which is your physiological state in the moment. So this is one up here when you feel great, all the way down to feeling horrible. It is normal for the brain state to change all the time, just the way your heart rate. Sometimes you're running down the street and your heart rate's going really fast, other times you're calm. So the momentary brain state is not important. The other is your set point. Okay, so if the brain is very, very cooperative, let's say that you're living in stress all the time, so you're running at 4 or 5. Your brain says, okay, I get it. That's your life. So I'm going to adjust and make that your safe place, and I'm going to default to 4 or 5. Okay, and so you're going to be chronically stressed, and that's just how it is. And that's why most health problems, chronic diseases, mental health problems come from having a set point or a habit in the brain of being at 3, 4, or 5 in stress. The objective of EBT over time, it takes 1 year, it takes about 3 or 4 months to really get your set point up, but for really, really lasting change, the research shows it takes about a year of a practice, and then you continue it. You want to get your set point up to a 1 or a 2 as quickly as possible. And that just means during the day, moving out of stress and, using the tools over and over again to disrupt this habit in the brain. It's just like a muscle. But this is what's so important to me about the beauty of life, is that we are creatures of purpose. Our greatest pleasure is to know ourselves, love ourselves, and use our advantages, our disadvantages, our emotional trauma, whatever we have going on in our life, to help the world be at peace and love. We are drawn to that. That is our nature. So the first order of business is get your brain wired for joy, which means love and compassion and gratitude, hope, and change your set point so your health is best, but also so you can be prepared to change the world. And once you get to a set point 1, the last part of the training is to find your deeper purpose that's going to fulfill you, your unique purpose in life that you are drawn to, that you have passion about, where you begin to see miracles everywhere. And when you do that, you are going to, and you know this very well, Jody, you're going to go up to people that don't like you, who tell you you're wrong, who shame you, who try to infiltrate your brain and tell you you're not worthy, who arrest you, who persecute you. And that we are human, and we're not just spiritual beings, we have bodies, and that recreates a stress response. And in response to that stress, we get warmer and warmer and more loving and more resilient. So it happens more and more naturally.
Fabulous. You know, last week, I had this anxiety attack, and I realized that it was because it was a multitude of things all happening at once. And it's not like much had changed in the world that is affecting me every day, Gaza, even though I'm always in a puddle of tears that I can move do a peace economy practice and move myself out of. But it was like a personal thing with my son. And then it was what was happening in Congress. And, it was just like, it was too many layers. And it was like, I couldn't rock it all. It was just, it was almost if it just all went dark, and I watched my heart rate move up to 107,
Yes.
sitting at my desk. And my heart, I was like, I'm going to have a heart attack. And so it's good to know. It's like, okay, so there's an extreme that I could work my way out of, but it still lingers in my mind, my sense of vulnerability that I felt. And I thought, oh my God, I live nowhere near anything frightening, yet I could have that extreme reaction just sitting at my desk. So I think, like, how does everyone, it's like the heat is up, like the anxiety keeps getting crank. And like you said, in the 80s, it wasn't the same. And I thank you for saying that, because I think back to the 70s, and I try to talk to my grandkids, but they're at a different cranked up level. I can't relate to that as a 20-year-old. They're in a 20-year-old anxiety pattern that I was not in.
We We want all these tools to be in every college, every high school, every grammar school, and we want every parent to have them, as well as to be part of the healthcare system. It's just a tragedy that they're not. But what happened for you in that moment is and we could do a cycle if you want. We can try it out if you want
Yeah.
to.
I'm in constant like stress.
Watching this and just thinking, what in this world is going to happen? Let me just mention that the emotional brain is incredibly forgiving. Jody's brain will find what is causing this, whether it's situational stress. If it's situational stress, she's going to move through some emotions and she's going to move to positive emotions and then back to purpose. Okay. If it's a circuit in the bottom of her brain that just happened to get triggered, her brain will be hungry to find that circuit and heal. What I mean by that is inside of us is the healing force, and our military industrial complex, the way the health system is an industrial right now, it has kept us going outside instead of inside. It is extremely simple. So do you want to go give it a try?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm going to instruct you because essentially all this is the primacy of process. I'm going to teach you a process of resilience that you can use for the rest of your life. It'll take 3 months to really learn it, but we're going to start now. And I'm going to be a little directive because it's very precise. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay. So I'm going to say what's called a lead in. Jody is going to say that lead in with her thinking brain, and then she is going to release control because we want to get into the powerhouse of the emotional brain. And she's going to turn her attention to her body, trust her body, where she experiences the activations in her emotional brain, and wait for some words to appear in her mind. Okay? And then she's going to tell me what they are, and I'm going to go to the next step. Okay, and we'll just get started on this. We'll go as far as we can. It's 23 steps. It's probably beyond what we can do, but let's start, okay? Are you ready? Okay, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to appreciate that this brain is the childhood brain. And so it's really simple, and you need to be emotional. And you can do that because you know how to be code pink and you know how to be, okay, I want you to act it out a little bit. And you're going to say, you're going to be 4 years old and you just put your hands on your hips and you're going to say, you're going to complain. And you're going to complain to say, the situation is, the lead in is, the first words are lead in, and then you're just going to say about 4 or 5 sentences to tell the story, and then you're going to stop. Okay. And then we'll go on to the next one. The situation, this and this and this and this, just the facts, no feelings. You want to ramp up your stress right now. So no feelings, just factual. This
Okay.
and this and this and this. The situation is.
The situation is that in Gaza, they are bombing and frying and destroying life every day, and nothing is getting in the way of it. And they are torturing starving people. We are watching them torture starving people. That, like, it's insane. And then starving children to death. Watching these babies die is like, oh, I can't. I can't. I just. And then I've got my son who just got destroyed by his teacher, and 8 years of his work gone down in drain. And I just want to hold him and make it better, but I can't. And I feel useless. I feel like, where do I turn? This thing is so fucking big, this war economy. It's like more money going. Oh, the day it happened, $100 million, a check for $100 million got written to Zionists, Jewish NGOs to go after us as anti-apartheid groups. They got
Great.
funded with $100 million.
We're gonna take a nice deep breath. Anything else you want to say, and then we're gonna
Yeah,
pause.
we have a bunch of lawsuits on us.
All the losses on.
Yeah.
I don't want Jody to wear herself out by talking about it because the power is in the emotions. She's already graded her emotions, so this is going to be really big. So pause, connect with your body. Remember, your brain knows how to do this. You were born to do this. It's very simple. But I want you to pause to connect with yourself and tell me when you feel connected with your body. That means the thinking brain and the emotional brain are connected.
You mean my busy head and my pounding heart?
Yeah, exactly. When you can be aware of the sensations in your body, you're ready for more, my friend.
Okay, yes, my brain is very dizzy, my mouth is very dry, and shaky, everything, my jaw's shaking.
Okay, so
And
you're in the emotional blockade right now. If you didn't have EBT, you would not be well. you're going to see that you can, with this skill, this method, you can be well. Okay, so we're taking it step by step. It takes a while to get used to it. I want you in about 5 words to distill what you're most stressed about. It needs to be very simple. Something like the world is bad or I hate life. It needs to be very fundamental. It has to come from the bottom of your brain. Take a nice deep breath and you're going to say, what I'm most stressed about is, and then you're going to pause and you're going to wait for this to come from your body, not your head. What I'm most stressed about is, just say it, what I'm most stressed about. So in your own voice, what I'm most stressed about is,
I can't
Exactly what you
stop it. I can't stop it.
I can't stop it. Okay, that was done perfectly. We are going to remember, I am going to write down those words. And those of you who have to leave, please be sure to leave. But this, once we start this, we don't, it's very sacred. I can't stop it. Is that right?
That's right.
Now that will be your topic. That will enable you to find the circuit in your unconscious mind, the exact circuit. Even a brain scan can't do that, but your brain is that smart. That's why we can do our own therapy. It'll find the exact circuit that's amplifying your stress. Okay? So that, and I want you to agree now, I can't stop it, correct?
Correct.
Those words are sacred. We stayed with just those words so we can get at that circuit. Okay? And you are now going to express, you're going to protest this going on by expressing anger in a very safe, very fast way that will both find the most damaging part of that circuit and unlock it and release the stress so your feelings can flow beautifully. Okay? So we're going to do this together. It's about your vocal tone. It's about, I feel angry that I can't stop it. Just say that in very plain words. I feel angry that I can't stop it.
I feel angry that I can't stop it.
Stop. Now you stop. Yeah, you're going to go lower in the brain. I can't stand it. That I
mean,
can't
I
stand
want
it.
to scream. I don't want to put, I don't have words. I just want to scream.
Okay, you can scream in just a second. I feel, just try for once. I feel angry that I can't stop it. And then I hate it. 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 I feel
I
angry.
feel so angry. I can't stop it. I hate it. I hate it.
Keep going.
I hate it.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Stay with it. And it turns to sadness. This happens very naturally. Very naturally. So just stay with it. And you're very aware of your sadness right now, correct? Okay, just stay in your sadness as long as you need to. Stay in your sadness as long as you need to. And tell me when you're ready for more, but don't rush.
I mean, my whole body's just shaking.
You're fine. You're doing very well. This is normal. Coming back to sadness where you feel connected. Coming back to sadness where you feel connected and tender and even loving toward yourself. This prevents depression. Otherwise, this emotional blockade would lead to depression. She will not be depressed or anxious because she is clearing that emotional blockade. It's universal. It works for everyone from age 6 to 106. Stay with the sadness until you're ready for more. Do not rush it. You're doing beautifully. Just stay with it. And everyone here, please be a warm presence for Jody, as she's doing this work, just send her love, please. And be aware of the loving connection you have to yourself. This is a love experience. Again, it's very sacred and very important that you soak in her feelings and your love for her.
I'm just feeling really vulnerable and
Right? And I'm going to help you with that. I want you to now say this, and I just want to say, you don't know, you've never done this before, and I just want to stay with you right now. If at any time you don't feel safe, we'll stop. But I want you to tell me when you feel connected to your body. We're almost there, my friend. You're almost there. And tell me when you can.
I feel connected. I feel my vulnerability. I
So
feel
now I'm going to help you with the next step is sadness. And I want you to say, and I want you to use a loving voice. Your relationship with yourself is very important here. My one deepest sadness is, and say it tenderly, say, my one deepest sadness about this, that I can't stop it. My one deepest sadness, and then you wait and you'll say a couple words, and then I'm going to ask you to feel the feeling until it fades. Okay, this is a new skill for you, but you can do this. My one deepest sadness is, it could be that I can't stop it, but it can be whatever comes to your mind. My one deepest sadness is, my one deepest sadness is, just complete the sentence and then stop and feel the feeling in your body until it fades.
that they used us to make this happen.
They used us to make this happen. Stay present to your emotions and feel them. Extract every bit of goodness from that feeling. It's a tender, loving sadness. And you just stay with it. Feel it in your body. It will course through and be effervescent at some point. Feeling the sadness until it fades. Just feeling it. It will fade.
I just felt like I just feel the strength.
Yeah, I know you did it. Okay, you're almost there.
I mean, here's what happened. Here's what happened. All of a sudden, it was just like, and so therefore,
Yes,
it's us that can change it.
I know, but I'm gonna have, oh, so I think you're wired at one. I think you're wired for joy because that's what happens when you're wired for joy, everybody. But we're gonna have her go through the rest of it just in case. That's what happens. That's what happens to me too. You go to anger, sadness. It's your brain popping to joy because that's your natural state. You can, I think that I'm going to try you just shortly, but we can stop. We don't even have to do these, but I'll try. My one deepest fear is, if I don't resolve this, my one deepest fear is,
If we don't resolve this,
I don't resolve this in my own mind. Because right now you are harming yourself, right?
if I don't resolve this in my own mind,
The consequence to me in my overall life will be,
the consequence to me in my overall life will be actually being useless.
useless. Now feel that until it fades. This is very important. Feel the fear, useless, whether it's to your loved ones, to your work, or whatever, to your husband. Feel the fear.
Because actually I'm useless to my husband.
Yeah, all right, okay, good.
But I work at that.
Feel the fear until it fades. Now this is really cool. Say this. You're gonna put your shoulders back and your chest out and your chin up, and you're going to get yourself to brain state 1 where all your beautiful ideas come out. Okay? And you're going to say, hey, everybody, I do have some power here. I feel guilty. Why don't I just do the sensible thing? And you're going to say what you're going to do instead of being upset about, I can't stop it. So, hey, everybody, you're going to get with joy. Hey, everybody.
Hey
everybody.
everyone.
You have some power here.
I have power here. You have power here.
Why don't I just do
Together.
the sensible thing? I would have done it for. Why don't I just do the sensible thing? And what would you see yourself doing in the best of all worlds?
Joining with you to rise up, let go of this war economy, cultivate the peace economy, hold hands, hold each other, listen to each other, be in joy together. Yes.
Okay, so you are, and now I can tell you for sure she does not have a circuit. She's rewired her brain. She's wired at one. She's wired for joy, and that's what we look for, and that's why we can go forward in the world. But we're going to finish. We're going to go to the positive emotions. I feel grateful that, just one statement, real quick. I do feel grateful that.
I do feel grateful that you're here today, Laurel. Because I needed that. I was stuck. And the reason I kept bringing it up was I knew I was still stuck.
I know. Well, you're not going to be in a minute. Just stay with me.
Okay, but I just, my gratitude is for you, is for my community, is for all of those who give their lives and they're knowing. They're knowing this moment of knowing that I feel just right in this moment, like it's liquid gold going through my heart. It's just like so juicy right now in my heart is that knowing space.
That knowing. And I feel happy that.
I feel happy that we're here together and that this community is here and that the work is ahead, that we can be the truth, hold them accountable, and be responsible and model what was missing.
And I feel secure that we're almost there to pride. So I feel secure that. I feel secure that.
I feel secure that that truth resonates inside of me, and in that resonance connects me to others where that truth also resides, in a world where that truth has been decimated by too many lies.
And take a nice deep breath. And I feel proud that I want you to say what you're proud about that you did. I feel proud that pride is very big in the brain. It chases away the shame.
Okay. I feel proud that I don't know that I stepped up. I wanted someone else to do it, but I I was like, well, let's put it out to everyone. And then I feel
You do.
pride that I took care of myself.
Okay, so notice,
Me.
right, but notice what she's doing is she's ahead of me already. She's wired at one because she's going to the next step, which was we always finish by taking activism. We take an action for higher purpose. It gives a structure, and that there are many people who aren't of higher purpose. So it teaches people to do that, but it gives us the structure too to have clarity. So given all that I've just experienced, I expect myself to do the best I can to, what are you going to, so given all the experience, I expect myself to do the best I can. What action are you going to take now, Jody, now that you've experienced that?
To stay in the space as much as I can of joy and love, because that is where the leadership is. That's where where we want to be pulling from and modeling from. And as much as what's happening has the intention of destroying us, it's really the space of joy and love that can lead people forward.
Great.
Really, in this process, what I witnessed was like what takes us down, what it feels like to be in it, and the purpose it serves, and that to get out of that first is what is going to engage our activism to be most important.
Yes, and I'm going to have you finish this for your safety's sake, okay?
Okay.
You just did a tremendous amount of work. I want to be sure.
No, and I'm very high as a kite.
I know. I appreciate you working with me on this. I know this is hard. I want you now to say the positive, powerful, encouraging words that you need to hear in order to stick with that plan.
People power, people power, people power, people power.
Now, you have this vision of yourself going forward in just that way, right, Jody? But in order to learn, change, and grow and keep raising your set point to 1 plus 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 plus, you're going to say, what is the essential pain of life The unavoidable reality of life that I must accept in order to be as strong as I need to be going forward. What is the reality of life that you can bring to mind that if you accepted that, it would be less self-damaging to go forward? In other words, you'd be stronger. That I can't get what I want. I'm not in complete control. Some people will reject me. I'm not perfect. It could be anything, a reality of life that will strengthen your activism.
Well, I started with power, so it's like,
I am not in complete control.
well, I don't think that empower, it's more that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
But um
The
together,
world, the world is
together,
not the way I want it to be.
together, we create a power that is about caring and loving, which
Yes.
is not corrupt, which is the future, which is the peace that we all need to live in, and that it starts with us. It starts together with us. In this space of overwhelm that I was in, it's this one act, these one steps, they matter so much, and we forget because
Yes.
we think it's out here, but it's right here in this moment where the power of togetherness, the power of the people starts. It starts in these circles, and it's why these circles are so important.
Oh, that's right. And so, and the reason that it works for you to accept that is because you're of higher purpose, whether that is integrity, freedom, but what in your own thought, what is the one word that expresses why you have this passion that you're going to follow through? What is that higher reward? Freedom or integrity or spirituality or authenticity or whatever that word is for you. What is your higher order reward for following through?
Peace, justice, liberation for all. I
I
mean,
know.
liberation for all.
Okay, now what I want you to know is that you have just bathed your entire body in healing chemicals.
Oh, I'm stoned. I'm like, I've got like a rush of like endorphins go crazy. I like just took some drugs.
This is the new medicine, everyone. It's natural. It's by using these tools in your own brain. And so now I want you to celebrate and say, hey, everybody, I just spiraled up and I feel
Join me.
everybody.
Oh
And
my
I wanted
girl,
to
that was so much fun. Thank you. I have
that
no
was
idea what I was getting myself into. I was full of anxiety. Like from the minute I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? From the minute it started to unravel,
but it's
I,
the most important. How are you feeling right now?
I told you I'm on a rush of just joy. I mean, like in a full-on shower of joy and rainbows and stars and
And
puppy
what
dogs.
what is the most important? What I'm doing here is for safety, everyone. First, she's checking her emotional brain, and now she's going to put her thinking brain back on and reflect on what she just did. And she's going to say, what's the most important thing you learned from the beautiful, beautiful work you just did?
That it's all right here and it's all available to all of us, and that we are here for each other to hold each other through the process, and that when someone is in stress, that we actually now have this tool. We can go to your website and start practicing, and that it is practice. And I think and that it's the life practice. I think that we're not arriving anywhere, except that the settling place can move higher and higher. And that, yes, we're always going to be triggered with stress, and life will give us that, especially the time we're in right now. And so instead of letting it overwhelm us, let it overwhelm us, as it will, and we have no choice. And but we have the choice to do the process, and that I felt like it was a humbling to be in that process. And so the space to humble ourselves.
Wait, Jody, I know there's a time issue here, but I want to show you that part of this community is that when people listen, and I wanted to speak to the deepest part of every person here, and thank you so much for staying through that. And remember, you might have gotten triggered, and if you get triggered, that is good, because that's when you change your brain. Staying calm is a quick pathway to chronic disease and mental health problems. We're emotional creatures and we need these skills. But I want you to know that in a normal EBT group, what happens is the other people then reflect and are vulnerable back. And I want people to have the choice to do that if they like, But what I want to do is I want to give you what's called a connecting message. This comes out of the Stone Center for Women, which examine what do people really need, and what they need is to be witnessed, to have someone give their complete attention to them, feel their feelings, be willing to share what those feelings were inside of them, and also to share that what that person just did, what they were able to witness, not only changed their own brain, but changed their life to bring them to a higher set point where they can help the world become more loving and more peaceful. And so I'm going to use it. It's very structured, but I'm going to tell you the feelings and sensation when you did your work, Jody. The feelings and sensations in my body were fear, love, and this tingling celebration and hope that the world is going to become a better place because you are in it and you are creating this. And the way your work was a gift to me in my own inner life and my own advocacy, my own hope to make the world a better place, more peaceful and more loving, is I felt so strong in my body that it makes me even more committed to getting these skills out. And I needed that right now because it's been really hard. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in with us. Um, uh, empathy, yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And that I think what you just spoke about was the reciprocity of community and relationship. Us all being here was a reciprocal relationship of the witness, of the listening, of the teaching, of the all that happened. So Laurel, deep gratitude for coming, for sharing, for your commitment. I just also want to speak to your commitment because I look at like, how did we get here? And I really felt that. And what we went through was just like that we all somehow didn't show up in ways we should have, that we were conditioned to not pay attention and not feel our emotions and just get along to get along to get along. And, one of the things that has been missing is a commitment. And it's the way the war economy takes us into stress, takes away that capacity for presence and commitment. And I just want to honor your commitment. I think you said you were in your 20s and now you're in your 70s. And that understanding and having a relationship and being able to teach and to know the insides of the cave, as I say, that it was dark and you were able to like find your way and really learn in a way that you could share and give us tools that make living simple and direct and engaging and all of that. I just want to honor that because it's what we need, and that you did that means that's love. That's commitment, that you got joy from it, to find these places where we can find these places and that they are at the core of us and that it's not out here, and to trust that. I think that's the hardest thing, is to trust that it's here, and that in developing it with our communities, we're developing the seeds that the world needs right now so desperately. And that we hold each other, all the complexities that we are, and we are caring for each other in the wobbly world that we're trying to navigate. So Laurel, thank you so much. We've put your website there. There might be a breakout group of the local peace economy that wants to practice EBT together, and I would certainly, having just now gone through it, be willing to have something like that once a month where we do the practice, because it's a steps, a reminder that to get to where I can get back to one took a lifetime of commitment to joy and love through a lot of pain and sorrow and a lot of trauma. So I am also having, lost a child even, to that it is a process of patience and love and caring that this community is dedicated to. That's what you show up for, and it's what you do in your own communities. So I know we've been through a lot, and I think Marie now will be able to put those who want to stay into your breakout rooms to be able to share about what just happened. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about reciprocity. We have a special guest where the subject is reciprocity, and we've just all been inside of it. Laurel and I've been modeling it from what we've each put our passion into, creating tools to serve humanity. So that how reciprocity works in the magical way. And I don't know if Jen is still here, Jen Bond, but she's my teacher of like just what the matriarchal community is, that it arises from mothering. The peace economy arises out of understanding that space of mothering that is reciprocal, that is caring, with expecting nothing in return, is that space, if we have it, that we can keep going back to. Good parenting helps you go there. And I just want to share one other thing that came to me as I was going through it. When I was in China the last 3 weeks, I was on a TV show and I talked about the stress Americans live in and the anxiety. And a Chinese guy said, well, Chinese people are in stress too. And we had a conversation about it with some US folks and some Chinese folks. And they actually have like normal stress and anxiety. And we have this other thing that they can't even recognize, because we don't know what it's like to live where our needs are going to be met, where when we ask for something, we get it, when everything is arranged around community. People are like, if people are alone, people look to bring them in, where community centers are what's funded, where like to understand what socialism is, to understand social, to understand what it means to care for each other, the peace economy, that structure. And why do people live the longest in socialist economies has a lot to do with what Laurel's been teaching us. Is you don't get stuck in that space, which turns into disease. And also community is the healer of so many things. So Laurel, deepest gratitude. And Marie, I'm going to give it over to you to for those who want us to hang around and be together, to put everyone in their little listening group. Thank you. Thanks all of you for joining.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Laurel. It was wonderful. For those who are going to stay for the breakout, if you're familiar with our practice here, we send you to rooms. You do not come back to this main room. You just stay and socialize and talk and hang out until you don't feel like being here anymore. And then you just leave the call, and I keep the entire call open until everyone leaves. So I will stop the recording and we'll move to breakouts.